Hello everyone. I am live here uh, at our exclusive NESL studios is where we cast these from. Exclusive NESL studios
Very
is where we cast
exclusive.
these
So
from.
exclusive
Exclusive
that
NESL
anyone can
studios
enter. It's called the internet. So exclusive that anyone can enter. It's called the internet. So exclusive that anyone can enter. It's called the
Oh
internet.
wow!
So
I just
exclusive
managed to
that
click the
anyone can
channel out,
enter.
and now I have infinite. Okay,
Yes,
there it is. I
I
had
was
the
listening to that.
infinite echo coming back. Oh, was that happening to you as well?
It was certainly coming out on the stream, causing the infinite echo, which is not too surprising,
Oh right,
given that your audio was feeding into
because
it.
I'm picking up all the speakers. So I'm sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I am Disciple. I am casting here with. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, I can introduce myself if you've forgotten my name.
Well,
Spuddington.
I know it's Spuddington, but I like saying my own name. I don't know about you.
I like the sound of my own voice. I don't know if I like the sound of my own name necessarily, but yeah, we've got two teams here today, and I do believe you know the names of them, and I have written them down and then forgotten them.
Yes, so we have Dash9 over on the purple team, and then we have ZeBopSquad on the blue team, and this is a pretty high level Diamond Platinum game. I saw a lot of ZeBopSquad are challenger in at least one of the three queues, so definitely going to see some high level play coming out of these teams.
Yeah, and you can really just look to see guys that. I mean, yes, teamwork in the end is probably more important than all other things when it comes down to making your team effective. But the basic fact of the matter is, if you've got a team that's composed of bronzes and silvers, they're not usually going to come out on top of the team composed of the diamonds. So once you hit that highest level, you do start to see more about just being individual teams being better than the players themselves. But interesting to note that both these teams are fairly equal and also fairly high up on that particular scale.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see some very good play. You know, it's not PAX, but it's definitely going to be the best of what we can offer you here at NESL. So I'm trying to get these spell blockers in place so that we don't give any advantages to either team. And while I do that, do you want to talk a little bit about these picks and bans?
So what we're seeing here, kind of fairly standard picks thus far. Getting the Zac pickup, the Thresh pickup, the Nasus pickup. Those are all pretty high tier picks right there. Zac is not a particularly common ban, nor is Nasus, but Thresh, probably the number one ban pick support. And couple that with the Nasus Zac being strong picks that we've been seeing more and more of lately. I'm a little bit surprised they've been able to draft quite such a strong team right off the bat in terms of what they're looking for. But it is worth noting that their team doesn't really have a particular theme for it going right now.
And yeah, it does look like their main theme right now is they're going for the green. They just want to bring in the green. That's all I can notice right now. But you know, we could have either Zac or Nasus in the jungle if they do the switch. And if we have Zac in the jungle and Nasus in that top lane, then he's going to have a pretty weak laning phase, looking mostly just to farm up his Q and get some tanky items so he can kind of be that front line for his team. But that would enable Zac to go in his jungle for the strong ganks. The only problem here would be if we have a Zac top and a Nasus jungle, it would be a fairly... They wouldn't have a lot of presence up in the top lane. They wouldn't have very strong ganks out of Nasus. They would have two very tanky champions. Zac has a lot of CC built in, but he doesn't bring a lot to the top lane in terms of, you know, damage or CC if there is a gank.
Yeah, so we will be seeing which one they choose to go for, and of course they can swap that up at the last second. They can have locked in all their choices and still have no set lane roles, and they can afford to wait until they've seen that last pick before deciding whether they're going for the Nasus or the Zac in the top lane. Nasus top lane is becoming more and more popular though, and it seems to be much harder to shut down than it used to be. He does get those Q stacks, yes, and he can build almost pure tank and still be a very credible threat. Very dangerous on the whole, actually, Nasus top. It's one of my personal favorites, and actually I was doing it before, it was cool. But seeing that Syndra lock in without knowing the opposing mid lane does seem like it's opening itself up to a few possible counter picks. I'd be a little bit surprised if they went for Orianna, although it would fit very well with a team comp in general.
Orianna would definitely fit in with the team comp. Has some great synergy with Zac, and it is locked in. And so we do have the possibility to put the ball on his head. He jumps in, everyone goes right into him, and then he bounces them right back out with his Let's Bounce. And that's probably going to be a synergy they're looking for. We just have to hope that Zac can get tanky enough if he is in that jungle to actually be able to dive the enemy team.
Alright, so what they're hovering over here now, Dash9, is Shen, and I really, really don't like this choice. I like it in... Okay, so I really, really like it in some ways, and I really, really hate it in other ways. I think the biggest problem they're going to have if they pick up the Shen is the fact that they can then put Nessa's top lane against that Shen. Even if they go for 2v1 swap-ups, it's still not really going to favour the Shen, and a Rumble might be better. But the thing is, if they don't go for that Shen, they are locking themselves out of that Evelynn-Shen combo, where you have the Stand United coming in on the Evelynn from Stealth Agony's Embrace. She ends up with like 1,000 HP of shield, just jumps into the middle of the enemy team and sets up really well. But you would risk, in so doing, the incredibly strong Nasus, farmed up Nasus top lane. But it actually looks like that's not going to be the case. They will be going for the Zac, which makes sense because Nasus is not going to have an easy time against Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely. Rumble's just such a strong lane bully, and once he hits that level 6, when we have the... we don't have a lot of hard CC coming out from this top lane or this jungle, but the slows just from the Equalizer and from the Agony's Embrace can be crippling to the enemy team if they're able to catch a Twitch or an Orianna, who just in history are such, immobile and squishy champions. And so they're going to look to assassinate those two members of the team, and if they can get one or either of them down, then they'll have a great time in these team fights. Vayne will be free to kite around with Nami's help to take out these high health targets such as Zac or Nasus.
Yeah, Dash9 here have built a team which has a lot of picking potential. They've got really, really strong small-scale fights, but they will suffer if they end up in a full 5-on-5. Rumble, for instance, his ultimate incredibly powerful in a small or cramped area where you get that equalizer down, people can't move out the way, it blocks off areas, takes people's health down significantly if they're standing in it. And you've also got that potential for over-the-wall stuns with stuff like Nami Bubble, with stuff like Syndra E, which is a very long-range stun indeed. So you've got to be very, very careful if you're playing against Dash9 right now, but at the same time, it is going to be difficult. If they lose the kind of control of the game, Dash9 end up getting pushed back against their towers, they're not going to have a lot of answers to the siege coming out of... Wait, I'm getting confused as to which... Dash9 is purple, right?
Yes.
Yes, they will not have a lot of answers to their opponents on the other team, which is ZeBopSquad, he says, remembering.
Yes, the ZeBopSquad in the blue. But that's kind of what Purple Team did build their team around, is to not get pushed up to towers. If they get pushed up to a tower, then we'll go up there on the Evelynn. We'll be there to punish the enemy team. Hopefully, that should be what he's looking to do. It does require such a big vision investment from the ZeBopSquad with the vision wards just to keep Evelynn out of the lanes, because she has such a heavy burst potential early on in the game with her E and with her hate spikes, and just throwing the red buff over and over again can really take out especially squishier lanes such as the Twitch or the Orianna. The Thresh pick is going to be great to help keep Twitch a little bit safer in that lane because he has so much peel just inherently built into his kit. But Twitch himself, unless he can get that stealth out, has no natural escape.
No, it's kind of one of those weird things where over a long chase, Twitch is actually one of the safest AD carries in the game because that stealth gives him that movement speed and he can't be targeted for the duration. So if he's well overextended but he sees the enemy coming ahead of time, stealths up, he's actually safer than most other carries. Even someone like Ezreal with that blink available, Twitch is going to cover more distance in the long term with that Q safer. The problem is the activation time. If you can burst Twitch down in that 3 seconds or so, he's not going to get anywhere at all, and it's not going to achieve anything for him. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But as to who's going to win in that bottom lane, it's going to be one to watch because Thresh hooks could make or break it either way.
Yeah, it's definitely true. We have Thresh and Nami, two very high-risk, high-reward supports. They have some very difficult to land Qs, but very, very rewarding. And so we'll see if Nami just tries to play a safe lane to get Vayne some farm, just land the Aqua Prisons to keep Thresh and Twitch off of her squishy carry until Esteban can get that Blade of the Ruined King, has some dueling potential, and that's when they can look to go a little bit aggressive, throwing the slowing E onto Vayne, you know, aggressing in those lanes, popping the Blade of the Ruined King, and even with an Evelynn gank, that makes it a potentially very deadly bot lane over there for Dash9.
Yeah, that's one of the disadvantages of the Nasus jungle in general, is just it's not going to be as big of a threat as Evelynn in any sense of the word. He might be safe against being ambushed in his jungle, he might even be able to make some invades happen, but in terms of just straight up ganking potential, no way is he going to be as relevant, at least until he hits level 6. However, once he has hit that level 6, his objective control is going to be incomparably better than Evelynn, because obviously Fury of the Sands, pop it, you get huge amounts of damage, you get extra health, and you just chunk down Dragon. Whereas Evelynn pretty much can't solo, a Dragon until she's easily, level 9, level 10, and that's really, really late.
Right, and so he does have the potential to solo that. We should look, when he hits about level 6 or level 7, going back, buying a Vision Ward, and getting that Vision control over Dragon. However, if Evelynn is between levels 1 and 6, able to get a couple kills, either on that mid or bot lane, then she will have some more control over the jungle, because she'll have more of an opportunity for her teammates to come up, and instead of just letting Nasus solo that, turn it into a dragon fight turn into a team fight at Dragon, which, unless they're able to land an excellent Zac jump and Orianna shockwave, it could go to Evelynn just because she has so much power with that Agony's Embrace.
So I want to talk a little bit about what you're expecting to see in this level 1 here. Both of these teams have decently strong invades. You've got the potential level 1 CC from the Thresh, you've got good damage from Orianna, Twitch, Zac, Nasus, all these kind of characters. You've also got very good level 1 CC and very decent damage indeed coming out of Rumble, out of Vayne, out of Syndra. So I'm curious as to what you think is going to be the case here. Who is likely to do what in this level 1 sort of period?
I'm not sure how confident either team will be. I think they'll all be traveling as 5 wherever they go. Nasus has a rather weak level 1. He won't grab his crowd control there. Whereas if Evelynn grabs that hate spike, she will be able to put out a lot of damage. Both these supports, I think, are going to be the key players at this level 1. If they can land the Aqua Prison or if they can land the Death Sentence. And I think we'll see both teams poking around the enemy jungle, trying to throw some wards to get vision. They, Dash9 over here just wants to see where Nasus is so he can't counter what ZBS is going to hope to do, what ZBS is going to hope to counter when Evelynn roams. Because even though Nasus can't gank, if he can just show up and body block or throw out a Spirit Fire and push out, then he might be able to prevent a little bit of Evelynn's early game pressure.
Yeah, it's one of those things, because the person who's coming in on the counter gank will usually have the advantage, just because whoever is doing the actual aggressive gank is going to either overextend or blow cooldowns in order to get close and do the damage in a hurry, which means you then end up in a 2v2 where the other guy has already spent a lot of his juice, so to speak. There is a bit of level 1 warding that's come out here. A little bit of a defensive ward coming out from the red team, which my memory has failed me once again, so I'm just going to obliquely reference them. Dash9, because they've got it in their names. That's helpful. Thank you,
absolutely.
Dash9.
So we have Dash9 and ZeBopSquad, or ZBS.
I'm going to be terrible at remembering names. I just can't remember anyone's name at any point in my life. Yeah, so we got defensive wards coming out from Dash9. They didn't want to risk being invaded at that level 1. And that's wise, because I think if Evelynn starts off poorly, she's unlikely to really make anything happen in that early game, because she relies on being able to sneak up and do a lot of damage. If she doesn't have the damage because she's under level, she's not going to really achieve very much.
And what's interesting to see here is that Evelynn has started up here at the red buff, and is going to run under the blue buff, and then potentially gank either mid or bot lane. But what we would normally see is starting at blue, going red, and going top, so it feels like Dash9's Wicco here is just trying to change it up so that the enemy team can't really expect where to go. However, Nasus is starting blue, going red, and will be in the same place as this Evelynn, so if she does show up bot, he will be there in time.
Yeah, it's a nice prediction actually by NinjaKen here, because Evelynn, you are right, would typically expect to go blue, red, top. But the thing is, top lane, Rumble versus Zac, I think you're normally going to expect to see Rumble push this up a little bit in these early levels. So, as a result, there's not a lot of point for Evelynn ganking if you're expecting your opponent to be pushed up against the tower. Not a lot of ganking potential. By virtue of that, you then have the potential for NinjaKen to head up down here. He knows where Evelynn started, probably, and especially actually with that ward in the enemy jungle. And so he can look to try and counter that out. However, he is farming, and it looks like Evelynn is looking for an opportunity in mid.
Right, she goes in, throws down a hate spike, but isn't able to put on enough damage. Orianna positioning herself very well against that gank. We did see Rosalind down there on the Thresh throw a pink ward into his river at the beginning of the game to try to avoid the Evelynn gank, and it was removed over there by Grey Akil, and so now Evelynn does have a free lane to gank. Twitch is pushed up pretty far along with Rosalind, and we might see the gank right here.
NinjaKen coming in from the backside. It's worth noting the Flay comes back. Wilco will be running away from this. The exhaust has landed on Esteban. Nice death sentence, and Grey Quill will be in a lot of trouble. First blood there going to Thug Vicious. That is not a good situation there for Dash9.
Absolutely not, even though the excellent Aqua Prison landed. I want to check and see. Esteban did have the condemn, but it looks like it didn't actually go off into the wall. So they didn't have the crowd control they needed, and then they were able to land, like you said, the beautiful death sentence, securing that first blood, and that will give them a 900 gold advantage here at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so getting the Nasus train started, actually, in a way. I mean, Twitch is going to... So, Twitch versus Vayne, interesting in that Twitch can potentially, holding that thought for a moment, NinjaKen coming in on this mid lane. I don't think he's really going to get anything done. Just a bit of damage, a bit of red buff, a bit of a...
She was at full health. He brought it down to half, and she's definitely going to have to pop almost the remainder of her potions just to stay in this lane against Peck and Wolf. And that was definitely some strong presence by Nasus. She was just a little bit far forward in that lane.
Yeah, it's you always have to assess what it's worth. What you're expecting to get out of a gank when you go for it. In that case, I don't think he committed much time, so just walking in, taking off half our health, that's worthwhile from him. If he'd sat there waiting for, a minute or two, and then achieved very comparatively very little, then he would have been regretting it a lot more. But in this case, like you say, not a huge problem. Works out pretty well. Syndra going to recall though, maybe not. She's actually just going to push this out, and I'm not sure I like that decision because now Orianna will reappear, and she's probably a slightly faster way to push it in this early game, but we'll see how it works out.
What's interesting is that up here on top, Lulos on Rumble is pushing up very hard. Did start with a Doran shield, so he doesn't have any wards, so Nasus would be free to come in with that Wither and potentially put down some damage. They do have a fair amount of CC that over the entire length of this lane might be able to result in some damage on Rumble. Interesting that they went for the Doran shield start since typically Zac doesn't auto-attack a lot in this lane. If he does any harass, it'll mostly be with that stretching blow, but that is not mitigated there by the Doran's Blade.
Yeah, it's gonna be, well, the Doran shield starts, I am a little bit surprised that they went for it, given what they were up against there, but far be it from me to question the minds of these players, but, when you're against ability-based champions, it does seem a little bit odd to go for a physical damage reduction item as your starting choice, even though it is a very efficient item and also gives you that nice health regen bonus there. So regardless, Rumble for the moment is getting control of that lane, but I suspect in the long run, if Zac is allowed to build up some magic resist, build up that spirit visage, he's going to start to out-trade him and win out in the long run. But we'll see. We will see.
Right, the top is pretty even at around 40 CS each of them. Both of our mid laners have the level 6, so they might be able to make some plays. Neither of them are typically roaming mages, but especially Orianna can get an excellent gank down with that command shockwave.
And we do indeed have Evelynn coming around here. She's surely going to go for this.
Up in the top lane, the equalizer comes down onto Rick, but Wicco is going to come in for the damage with the hate spikes onto these bloblets. These bloblets will most likely not survive. The flame spitter coming out from Lulos, and the smite down onto one of the small bloblets is able to clinch up that kill. An excellent gank between both Wicco and Lulos.
So I'm a little bit curious there. Do you reckon the Spirit Stone bonus damage to monsters counts for the bloblets?
I would say no. I think it only counts to jungle monsters because it doesn't count to minions, and I also doubted that it counts to pets. I think that deck bloblets count as pets, essentially.
Yeah, that certainly sounds logical, but Ninja Ken coming into the opposing jungle here. Wicco is coming around to his red. I expect he knows this is going to happen. He's got the vision there. He may choose to go for this, but the Wither is not going to achieve anything. He's just going to smite steal this.
And if he does get the smite steal, he is level 6. He does take it with the smite and the siphoning strike. Now level 6 with the red buff against this level 5 Evelynn. And right now, he's in a good position to make a play around Dragon, even though Evelynn got that excellent gank up top. It won't make the big difference if Nasus does choose to go for this. He does not have a pink ward, though, so he can't assure vision on this Dragon.
Yeah, nor does he have his smite available, so without that pink, without that Dragon securing smite, it'd be very unlikely. He may look to, just get up to level 7 before going for that. He could very easily choose to do so, and certainly he's doing well right now. Evelynn, yes, she's got one gank off. That's not bad, but she's not going to be quite the same late game presence, I think, as a Nasus farming up as he is, because he right now is doing pretty solidly on his Q stack. 78, which for jungle Nasus is definitely solid. Once he's managed to get that dragon secured, which I expect he will look to do once he has gone back, we may start to see the ball rolling for him.
We did have Rosalind come up here to throw the pink ward down, but Grey Kill is going to come and counter that. There is still at least one more vision ward in Rosalind's inventory, so they might be able to secure the vision on this, although actually red team has begun to go for this dragon.
Well, they can in fact do it. Now, they may well have called where Nasus would be. Seems a little bit risky actually in general, because they don't have the vision in the enemy jungle. I guess they were just relying on Nasus not being there, relying on, in fact, I would guess, on him having gone back to get his pink ward for that dragon. Not sure I actually like that play. I mean, it worked, but I'm not sure I actually like that play kind of from an observer's perspective and the choice of making it in the first place.
Right, it was a very big risk to go for that dragon there, but it was the right one. Nasus was overtaking the wolves during all of that, and now Nasus is going to try to return it up here onto Lulos. He throws down the Wither, gets some siphoning strikes on there. The Ignite goes onto Lulos. Will it be enough damage? It looks like it will be. The kit going over to young Richie Rich.
Yeah, so that's also going to give them an opportunity to shove in this tower. It's going to mean Zach is going to probably now start to be able to straight up beat Rumble in a one-on-one if the lane continues at all. That's scary stuff for Rumble because he's not good at farming under tower. We'll see how much they manage to do, but it kind of feels at the moment like every single lane is losing for Dash9. The mid lane being slightly out-farmed. You've got the jungle who is not, well, they're roughly equivalent, but oh wow, bot lane.
Oh wow,
I'm blind.
Down there in the bot lane we did have a kill going on to Rosalind due to the excellent Evelynn roam, but they won't be able to push up much in this turret now that Ninjakin has come down here to defend it.
Yeah, so like I was saying, it feels at the moment like all the lanes are winning, apart from the fact that Thresh did just die, although they are going aggressive once again.
Throws down the cask, flashes the Aqua Prison, the flash coming out of Nami, but the Expunge able to pick up the kill. Now turning on the Esteban. Do they have the damage? Ninja Kid is going to take one turret shot and back off. They almost had enough to bring down Esteban, but at this point, they might be looking towards the tower. Wicco is coming around the side here. They do have vision wards in that river, so he won't be able to sneak through there. Although, coming through the Tribush, he might look to the drop on the Vicious, and instead they will take the first turret of the game, going over here to ZGS.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of chance for them to 2v2 there with Vayne on 20% HP. That's just not an option. Probably, again, it's a minor advantage, but I just have this feeling that with that Nasus, with the Twitch, with the Orianna, with the 5v5 team comp, they're going to take this advantage if it keeps going at this pace in the long run. I mean, they're already ahead, and this is kind of the phase where Dash9 should be getting strong. This is the phase where they're roaming, where they've got invisible champions, where they've got mobile champions, where they've got long-range stuns, and AoE CC targeted at jungle fights. And yet they're kind of falling behind to the team that's more angled towards 5v5s in the stage where they should be winning, essentially.
Right, and even though they have a very strong late game carry in that vein, it's not necessarily a lot, doesn't have a lot more carrying potential than Twitch does, who scales very well at pretty much every part in the game. And one thing that matters a lot when you look at a late game carry is, you know, how often they can auto attack. And if you get hit by a command shockwave, if you get withered, and if you get jumped up by Zac, even though she has that cleanse, might get CC'd a little bit too hard to be the one that they can rely upon in those late game fights. It definitely doesn't have the potential to happen, but at this point, they should be doing more with their early game, having this Evelynn on their team.
Yeah, there's not a lot of protection in that late game fight for Vayne. It's going to be iffy, basically, as to who is going to come out on top. There's a death sentence there thrown at Nami, but I don't think either of them were really looking for a fight there. They just killed each other's wards and then backed away. Not a lot of protection. The ongoing support wars, indeed. The ward wars, if you will. But the that lack of protection might be somewhat mitigated because there's a lot of other threats on Dash9. But I really do feel like in the late game, if it does come down to it, unless they can get picks, Dash9 are going to fall behind.
Right, the protection here over on Dash9 is essentially just kill the enemy before they can get to Vayne. If they try to get to Vayne, you lay down the Agnes Embrace, you lay down the Equalizer, and you just make sure that they get slowed and, like, essentially, you know, they do have some kiting, which is how they will try to defend Vayne. One thing we haven't talked about much is Havoc Highwiz on this Syndra. Not often that we see a Syndra, but what do you think Syndra might be able to do against this Thug Vicious who's starting to turn very, very strong?
Well, Syndra is probably, at the moment, one of, if not the strongest single target burst mages in the game. In terms of just straight up damage, she's really, really high on that single target. Plus to that, she has the ability to stun at an enormous range for a very long time. So 1.5 seconds stun on Scatter the Weak, and the range on the actual knockback of the ball is like 2.5 times the range of the actual knockback. So it's very, very scary if you are an AD carry with no escape, because there you see it right in the mid.
Havoc Highwiz puts the slow down onto Feckenwolf. The command shockwave comes out to throw them away, but it's not enough. The ignite ticks down enough to give the kill up to Havoc Highwiz. There are now 2 members in this mid lane, and we do have Nasus, Thresh, and Twitch coming in here to defend this mid turret.
So there you saw it. The range on that stun is an incredibly good setup. If you have a team that's reliant on getting picks, Syndra is a very good choice on that team. She has the single target burst, and she has the long range stun coupled with the kiting slow.
And now we have Thug Vicious going in with the spray and pray onto Havoc Highwiz, and it just takes her down. Wicco has to back out of there. A lot of damage going onto it. A double buff Thug Vicious going to be very, very scary over here for Dash9. And that was a lot of damage on that turret. They might not be able to take it with Rumble moving in. It has Equalizer up.
I wouldn't bet on him going in with that. So, yeah, they've got wave clear, but they don't need to right now. That dragon is open if they want it. The question is whether they choose to go for it. Zac is committed at top, and they don't, it seems, know if they want to go for it when Rumble is around. But I really think they could handle it. They may just catch out Nami.
With the, oh wow, a lot of damage coming out of Thug Vicious. The excellent Flay and Death Sentence coming out from Rosalind, securing that. This will be a guaranteed dragon. They aren't going to contest that without a tidal wave coming out from Nami. And meanwhile, their Zac is just pushing up in the top lane. Richie Rich putting a little bit of damage on the turret, but not quite as much as they might have hoped from all that time up there.
Yeah, well, Zac isn't the fastest tower killer. He's good at clearing waves and he's good at escaping, but otherwise, as a split pusher, he's a little bit lacking. He may get called out for his troubles here.
Might be in a bad position as Wiggo comes in with that stealth, does not have Agnes Embrace, might come up soon. We have the Flame Spitter coming down. He does the Let's Bounce and is bouncing away. The Equalizer comes down, misses, flashed out by young Richie Rich, and he will escape here with his life.
A little bit of a query on his decision making there, though. I'm not sure he needed to use Let's Bounce. There's an important push going down on this bottom lane right now. And apparently we may or may not have a DC. Don't know if this is being played on Tournament Draft. It is indeed, but I have to query Zach's decision making at that top lane. He was up against two opponents, neither of which had any hard CC. He had all the time in the world to charge up his full elastic slingshot, but instead he just kind of jumped right on the spot.
Right, that was interesting to see. He might have been. I guess he couldn't have been afraid that they would break him out of that since they don't have any interrupts between the two of them. But at least he did get away. He did put a lot of damage up in that turret, and Evelyn did back off of the lane, so Rumble likely will not be able to respond with much turret damage by himself.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like ZeBopSquad is taking a little bit of an advantage here and there. Again, nice push on the bottom tower. They've taken it down fairly low already. I can't quite actually see the health bar because my paused screen cannot move for whatever reason. But they certainly took a decent chunk off that, and they're in a position to keep pushing it down. No one seems to actually be reacting. Evelyn might get down there eventually, but I guess the reason is because if Syndra moves, Orianna will probably then start pushing down the mid.
And with this, we just see ZBS. That's it, ZBS. Just getting a very strong position on the map here. Orianna will definitely be pushing in on this mid lane pretty consistently. Doesn't need to be anywhere else unless there is an obvious opportunity for her to throw down the command shockwave. But with all the pressure going on in the bot lane, she is just going to continue to apply it in the mid because we need more members over here from Dash9 to come defend this, and this will be an inner turret dropping for ZGS.
They've just taken that away, and there's just no answer. I mean, typically when people push down a tower and then go back, you expect them to kind of lose something in return, but there's just nothing available here. Rumble is in this top lane, and yes, he can continue to push up to his tower, but Zach clears the waves too fast. He can't take the tower. Syndra can't kill Orianna one-on-one and can't push down the tower unless Evelyn is able to set it up for them. Orianna should be aware. She did go straight past a pink ward.
And part of that was due to the unfortunate disconnect. Part of why they were able to push that turret without any issue. Here, Wicco does need to make a play because her lanes are getting beaten and outpushed. She does come up on young Richard, throws out the Agnes Embrace, puts down the slow. He gets body blocked, isn't able to run out of there because Lulos and Wicco and the Cannon Minion trap him in. And this will be a dead Zac, his second death of the game, and a very good roam by Wicco.
Yeah, we actually have the death sentence landing in the mid though.
With the death sentence going on in mid, they go on to Grey a kill, killing him for the fifth time this game. Doug Vicious in bad spot though. The Syndra ultimate goes down, but not before he takes her down in return with an auto attack. Now Rosalind and Ninjakin are in a rough position against Esteban. The exhaust goes down, so does the box. Esteban is very, very low, but might be able to kite out the Ninjakin. The Silver Bolt proc goes down. Wicco throwing out those hate spikes, but now Peganwolf is coming in, might be able to catch Wicco with this command attack, but the excellent condemn coming out from Esteban will keep her off the attack. The health bars aren't high enough to push down this turret, but overall a good fight back and forth. Ultimately a 2-for-1 for over here for ZBS.
Continuing to take, those little bits of advantage. Again, taking the kills, taking the towers. The dragon, I don't actually have the exact timer on it, but I don't imagine it will be too far off now. Actually, it's a couple of minutes, but there's just a lot of good play coming out in terms of just straight up decision making. Yes, Zach got caught at top, but in the end, that seems to have almost catalyzed his team to just take extra advantages in that mid lane in return, and he's keeping Rumble trapped up there. Rumble is not able to roam because he doesn't have the wave clear, and that just means that Zach is going to continue to farm up, and, well, who's going to be the more relevant one late game? They're both actually fairly similar, but I'd say it would be Zach.
Right, absolutely. He'll just be tanky enough to jump in and try and disrupt that Vayne and that Syndra before they can really get the drop on his Twitch. Twitch is going to be the main proponent here of ZBS's late game. They're just going to try and keep him safe as he auto attacks, and everyone else is just going to essentially body block for him or keep the enemy in place. And right now it's working for them. Every time they get a kill advantage, they take something out of it. In the mid, we saw them take the turret. We saw them take the inner turret down in the bot lane after they got a kill on Grey a kill. And it's very unfortunate to see that Nami game coming out so poorly. Part of it's just due to the disconnect, but part of it is due to the fact that she has no escapes. So even after she ends Aqua Prison, if there is a response, there's not a lot she can do to save herself there.
Yeah, and it just feels like, well, they're a little bit lost. Dash9 don't seem to have an answer. They may look to engage this mid lane, but they've got to hurry. The tower's going to go down.
That's going to go down, but the Hellwood comes in the excellent Cinder ultimate, taking down Twitch. Now Ninjakin is alone and goes down to the 5 members here of Dash9. They need to look to push something out of this. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Young Rich did take a turret. They might be circling up, actually, to take the Baron. They start on the Baron, and only 3 members alive over here for ZBS.
That's risky, though. There's a full ult combo from both Zac and Orianna available, and you can see the Equalizer looking for the disengage.
Esteban goes low from one attack. Rosalind does fall down. Rico has to flash out. Heckenwolf putting a lot of damage, forcing the flash out of Evelyn. And now Young Richie Rich and Esteban are chasing. Young Richie Rich does the elastic slingshot over on the Havoc High Wiz, has the Oreo on a ball on top of him. The command shockwave was used earlier, though. They were able to prevent the Baron, which was the key factor in that play.
Yeah, they prevented the Baron, and they didn't manage to take that mid tower, but it's very, very low, and indeed, they should be able to take this if they just shove it now, which does look like that's what they're going to do. Meanwhile, yeah, I don't know if I like that Baron call, because it's just so risky when you have a full health Zac, full health Orianna, and both their ultimates up,
right,
plus the bonus magic damage from the Baron.
That's definitely very, very true, and that Orianna Zac combo is very strong. They didn't get off the combo very well, but Orianna put out a lot of damage. She is about to finish that Rabadon's death cap, and with that much raw AP coming out, she's going to do a lot with that ball of hers. Now finishing Rabadon's, sitting up at 292 ability power, 22 minutes into the game.
Yeah, that's starting to get pretty significant. Plus, she's got that extra mana. She's in fact got Ninjakin getting caught.
Ninjakin does get caught. I wasn't actually looking over there, but Lulos is going to fall down in response to Thug Vicious. Thug Vicious very strong right now, has a Bloodthirster, Static Shiv, and a Last Whisper in response to only a Blade of the Ruined King over there on Vayne. So a huge difference in these 80 carries. 227 farm to 146, 8 kills to 1.
Yeah, and you can actually see those blue pings coming down the mid lane. The moment Ninjakin went down, they knew what they wanted. Yes, they didn't get the dragon, but they actually got Dash9 all very, very low. Taking that inner tower is going to give them even more map control. Will let them ward up their opponent's jungle. And actually, taking that vision control in many ways is going to be more important.
Absolutely. If you look at that jungle, it is all blue with the vision wards too. They want to completely deny vision here from Dash9, and now with Young Richie Rich and Thug Vicious farming up in this top lane, they are putting themselves in a very good position around Baron in case anyone decides to go for it. A couple of them are backing off, but I don't see Dash9 going for this again.
No, but I don't like the fact that ZeBopSquad here didn't predict Dash9 having an Oracles by this stage. I know that at this point Grey Aquil did not, and they kind of expected, I guess, that they wouldn't have bought an Oracle. But the thing is, when you ward the enemy jungle like they had, you can punish them really, really hard if they walk around with an Oracle's clearing it all out, because you can see when they clear the first one, and then you can see probably where they're going to check next. And if you've got characters like Thresh and Zac on your team, there's no reason not to then just expect them to clear, and they weren't low, they went back anyway, and then just punish them really, really hard with the death sentence or the slingshot.
Right, and that was definitely a questionable play. Throwing all those vision wards was very strong for them for the 25 seconds that the vision wards were out there. But now with everyone cleared out of the jungle, they still do maintain the river superiority. But with that lack of vision, that does put Dash9 in a slightly better position, hopefully for Evelyn to get the drop with an Agony's Embrace.
However, this is kind of the situation Dash9 did not want to be in. They did not want to be pushed up against their towers. They did not want to be grouped 5v5. They wanted to be forcing smaller fights and catching people out. And without that complete vision control of the enemy jungle, they're going to have a hard time doing so. Evelyn is doing work clearing stuff out right now. She's got to be a little bit careful, and Zac is just continuing to push this top lane. He's trying to force Rumble to never be with the team.
And with Zac constantly pushing the top lane, They might want to look to catch someone out. There were just 3 members in the mid lane with Twitch recalling, and that might have been their time for Wicco to run in with an Agony's Embrace to engage that. But unfortunately, now they're in a bad spot. They have to defend up against this top inner turret. 5v5, Nasus pushing out the mid lane, and now is going to come join the rest of his team.
I don't know about this though. Thug Vicious stealthed up and they were looking for it, but looks like they're just going to siege the tower instead. Lulos could be in a little bit of trouble there. I thought for a second he had a Sunfire Cape, but it was actually just the poison and the fact that red buff was ticking.
Right, Lulos falling pretty low just from a few Thug Vicious auto attacks. Now Thug Vicious is going to peg away on this. There's nothing it can do. The haste spike goes out as well as the tidal wave. Young Richie Rich and Ninjakin falling pretty low, but an excellent command shockwave takes out Havoc Highways and Esteban. No one has killed the turret yet. Lulos is the first to fall this fight. He was brought low earlier. Havoc Highways very low, going to fall down to another command attack. Greya kill Esteban and Wicco just running off the tail end of this. This will be a turret and a team fight win here for ZBS.
Yeah, and that's how much stronger ZBS is in the straight-up fight, in the 5-on-5. They were committed under the tower. Ninja Kim got chunked really, really low before the fight even really began for them. But Twitch was sat on the back line. He was able to put out as much damage as he wanted, and they just brutalized him in the actual fight.
And the slingshot went back onto Esteban. The command dissonance coming out from Orianna, putting a lot of damage on his team, and this will open up the 3 inhibitor. They will be able to actually transition to the mid inhibitor turret where Ninjakin has been pushing away at that happily. Only 3 members up here on Dash9. Greya Kill has to go back and heal, and with Syndra respawning, she won't be back in time to save the second inhibitor of the game.
No, and it's looking really, really bad for Dash9 now. They are now going to have to contend with huge minion pressure. They're also going to have to contend with the team that is stronger in a 5-on-5, sufficient to the degree where they can probably dive in that bottom lane, or going for the Baron. It's really, really hard to come back from that kind of pressure.
Right, with all of ZBS recalling, they really can't get anything from this. They are pushed back into their base, they aren't in a position to go for Baron, they don't have any sort of vision control in either of the jungles, and they're just going to have to push out these waves while they're safe now, but after that, you know, they're in a rough spot.
There's also some interesting options available here for ZBS, although they might have no reason to risk trying them. They can actually go for stuff like 2-man Barons. They could have Orianna Thresh, for instance, pressure that bot lane, and indeed they may just have Zac do it solo, and then look to just have Nasus and Twitch take out the Baron with 2 men, because they've got the vision control. If people come to stop them, they can back out, and they just aren't feeling threatened because, well, they're locked in their base for the minions.
But instead, they're going for the 5-man Baron with every member of the team here.
Which is rather safer.
A little bit safer. And they, with this vision control, they will see if Dash9 comes in for it. They will take the Baron before Dash9 comes in, and now Dash9 is out of their base. Is going to have to get back in there if they want to have any chance of fighting this out.
Frankly, at this point, it's good luck to them. Thug Vicious probably doesn't know there's a pink ward there, but even so, it's a really, really risky spot for him. Although, got all the pink wards around that area, they were determined to have vision control.
Holy cow, that Baron is just lit up with pink wards. They knew they were safe going for that Baron, and now they know they're pretty safe going here for this bottom inhibitor turret.
Yep, they're just going to take that away because no one can afford to make the engagement happen, but at the same time they can't afford to play it so passively. Dash9 are kind of in a lose-lose situation here.
The Death Sentence goes out onto Havoc Highwiz. He comes in for the play, throws down the box. The damage in the Shockwave comes down onto Havoc Highwiz, who goes down to the first member. Thresh does fall to the Vayne and the equalizer damage. Young Richie Risk sitting very low, but gets bursted down by the Elastic Slingshot. Twitch does fall under the turret, but we have 3 members here alive for ZBS and only 1 left. Greya kill here for Dash9.
Yeah, the GG well played's coming out. There was no real way back after that 2 inhib and Baron loss. That was just an insurmountable advantage. So Zac then proceeds to suicide, as does Orianna. That's going to be the game.
Yeah, very good play coming out here from ZeBopSquad, clinching the victory against Dash9 here in our quarterfinal game of the Go4LoL Cup number 129.